So first of all, like 25 properties in 15 months is just unbelievable. Sam and I did a journey to become a millionaire in real estate in 5 years. And I think the first year we talk about not even buying a property, just learning. So how cool is that, number one?
We have the famous Lattes and Leases, Miss Soli, with us today. I'm excited to chat. She's got a ton going on. She's pretty young. She's in her, I believe, mid-20s, and she's absolutely crushing it. She's done a ton of stuff, and she's looking to do a lot more, which Lucas and I appreciate. We own 50 million in real estate. We want to own $1 billion. So I love people that have big dreams and big goals because I can relate to them. So for those that don't know you, why don't you give us just a little brief intro into your story. We have some notes on everything we'll touch a little bit as well, but just kind of, where you came from, where you are, and where you're going.
So I'm 26. I'm based in the Bay Area, California. Really expensive out there, so I built my portfolio out of state. So I have about 45 units between Cincinnati, Ohio, and Augusta, Georgia. I've flipped a bunch of properties. I've done a 64-unit multifamily syndication, and I'm sitting in Palm Springs right now in a beautiful hotel room because I'm buying a boutique hotel here.
So you started out, your full-time job was a commercial real estate broker, is that correct?
Yeah, I worked out at Cushman & Wakefield.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. And you were doing that, and I guess kind of walk us through that a little bit. Was your goal always real estate on your own, or was this kind of a gateway to that, or did that spark your interest actually working for them?
Yeah, I got that job in college. So I was 19, needed a paycheck, and I had a friend who knew someone who needed an intern. And so I really did not know much about real estate, but I said, hey, it sounds fine, good paycheck, kind of fun. I was a finance major, so it kind of made sense. I ended up working there for 4 years. I did a lot of big transactions with them. I did office leasing mostly, and then we did some building sales and some land sales. Eventually, the pandemic hit. So when I was a senior in college, I was going into like full-time brokerage, and it was a commission-based job. But as you know, no one wants office space during the pandemic. Very, very hard sell. And so I kind of pivoted I just had a lot of time on my hands and pivoted toward investing in real estate. After I bought my first one, I just caught the bug and bought a lot really fast. I quit my job 15 months after buying my first rental. I had about 25 units, and the rest was history.
So why don't you walk through a little bit of how that came about? Because it sounds like you're over in that kind of East Midwest and down south there through Cincinnati down to Georgia. So talk a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, about that process and kind of the differences at investing in person and remote, and kind of what most newbies should look at when they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people think it's going to be harder to invest remotely, but I actually find it to be easier because you are forced to set up your business in a way where there are professional people taking care of your properties and being that kind of front line, taking care of your tenants and leasing your properties. I've seen properties in person I've bought without seeing them. Like I buy it and then I go see it, and I'm way more scared after seeing it because I don't know anything about renovation. But when I see them, and it's like I get the right contractor in place, I have the right property manager in place, and they've done this a million times before me. It's really just about how strong is your team. So a lot of people, think about, how do I pick a market? It's so hard to pick a market. There's so many markets to choose from. I always say go to where you have the best competitive advantage, and that competitive advantage is where you have the best team, because a great team is make or break in those situations when you're not physically there to touch and feel it.
Did you have the full-time job still at this point? It was just slower, or have you already made the jump? And just kind of talk about what that looked like, making a jump to full-time investor.
Yeah, so I had my full-time job, and I think they noticed that I really was not paid attention too much. My job, it's commission based, so you kind of eat what you kill. So in my mind, I was like, well, they're not paying me anyways. I can spend my free time at work. And I think that they also saw that and saw hey, you've got at that time, maybe it was 25, 30,000 followers, and you're building a business. I started coaching, and at some point I realized, I was at the bottom of the totem pole in the brokerage world. And so I was literally you do my financial analysis, you do this and that. And I said, I think in real estate, I have a bigger opportunity to grow something. Worst case scenario, come back and get a job at this commission-based brokerage firm. And I think they'd take me back because you don't get paid a salary. And so I had, enough income to cover all of my expenses. I had enough in the pipeline where I could work on construction projects full time, and it would take all of my time project managing them. And so I just kind of said, you know what, worst case scenario, I go back to exactly where I am today.
What has opening your mind, through what you did, a few years ago to now? What are kind of your bigger goals you have out there now to kind of shoot for?
Oh, was it you who shared your goals just like a day or two ago on Instagram? And it was like private jet, this or that. Yeah. And it was like, what's your big goals? And I saw that. I'm like, I think I need to do the goal setting exercise again, because I don't feel like I've recalibrated my goals to where I am today. It's just opportunities keep coming up, and I don't really feel like I've remade my big goals. But right now, the vision is creating like a high-end hospitality company. This was like my someday dream that I told myself someday, when I built myself enough cash flow, when I built myself enough stability, when I put in the work and I deserve it, I'm going to work on really fun design projects that test myself and provide really unique experiences. I wanted to build a health and wellness center, and just because of like all of the health issues I've gone through, that it's really something that's like near and dear to my heart. And so it's crazy to me that like someday is now. Like we're buying we're going to turn it into a high-end wellness resort. And it's even like, I even have to stop myself and think, like, even up until a month ago, I said, someday I want to do this, but like someday is literally we're closing in a month. So I think I need to go close myself in a room and recalibrate my goals and come out with maybe not owning an MBA team.
What do you think the importance of building strong relationships in a network in real estate investing?
Yeah, definitely all about the relationships. It's like kind of the whole who, not how. To be honest, haven't read the book. I just read the title. Everyone tells me you just have to read the title and you get the gist of it. But it's just like, how can you find a person to open the door for you? And I think that's much faster than trying to figure it out by yourself. Before I had partners, again, like I was so adamant on doing every single thing by myself. I think it was more of like an ego thing. I need to fund it. I need to manage it. I need to do everything. And when I unlocked, partnerships, mentorships, just like general connections and leaned on other people, things started opening up a lot faster. So I always say I will never go back to working alone.
Can you talk a little bit about what it's like being a woman in the space? Is it, what are some of the challenges that you feel like you face that maybe some women watching or listening can take some tidbits at and kind of help shorten that curve? Because my goal is to make it just as accessible and just the space that has just as many males as females.
I feel like there's not a huge disadvantage to being a woman because there's so many women who are specifically dedicated to like lifting you up. Like I feel like men are kind of a dime a dozen, and it's harder to stand out in the real estate investing industry, but you see a woman being really successful and everybody kind of bands together. Even men, like honestly, like you, Pace Warby, everybody's super nice. Like they want to lift women up, and there's not as many of them. And so I feel very supported in that way. I think the hardest is probably on the contractor side, where they like want to ask you out every other time you're on site, and that's like not super fun. But you can also play the card of like, I don't know. I think that's the hardest part, because if you don't really know what you're doing, they can kind of take advantage of you. And so that's why I didn't necessarily enjoy managing construction. If I'm out of state though, and I only talk to them on the phone, they could think I'm a 50-year-old woman who like knows my stuff. And so I find even that is a little bit easier, because the minute I show up on a job site, I'm like 5'2" and look like I'm 15, and they just don't take me seriously.
So what do you like better? Do you like doing the real estate investing, or do you like doing the branding and coaching, or is one not really ahead of the other?
That's a hard question. I mean, I like both. I think they fulfill different like needs, I guess. I think it's incredibly, the knowledge in my head has the power to change someone's life, and I think that's insane that I can say that at such a young age. I've helped people, who are like 60 years old change the trajectory of their retirement. And to me, that's like deeply meaningful. And I just didn't realize I'd ever have the opportunity to do that. And so I think from that perspective, it's really fulfilling to be able to give back to people. On the real estate side of things, I really enjoy what I'm doing now. Like I told you before, we do a lot of like cookie cutter flips, buy a lot of rental properties, incredible for building wealth long term, but creatively, it's not that creative. It's like the same the same fixtures, the same paint, the same flooring. It's awesome to build wealth like that. But I think what we're working on right now really lights me up from a creativity standpoint.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Make sure to hit that like button, comment with something you learned, and make sure to subscribe to this channel. We give away more free advice on how to create wealth based on things we actually do every single day than any other channel on YouTube. Make sure to share this with a friend because our mission is to inspire you to think differently about freedom.